This time I call to order the December 15th, 2025 Cottage Grove Planning Commission meeting. Roll call.
Commissioner Bott.
Here.
Commissioner Britton.
Here.
Commissioner Fisher is here. Chair Frazier is excused tonight. Commissioner Knable. Not present. Commissioner Steckman.
Here.
And Commissioner Woodman is excused from the meeting.
Thank you. Next, I'll look for a motion to approve the agenda. Do we have a motion to approve the agenda?
I so move.
We have a motion to approve the agenda from Commissioner Steckman. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Second from Commissioner Fisher. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. The agenda is approved. Next, we will move on to open forum. So if there's anyone in the audience that would like to speak on a topic that is not on tonight's agenda, the open forum would be for someone to speak on something that we weren't going to talk about already. So is there anybody who would like to speak? Seeing none, I will close the open forum and move on to item number 5, Chair's explanation of the hearing process. The Planning Commission is a volunteer advisory group to the City Council. One of the Commission's functions is to hold public hearings and make recommendations on land use and zoning matters. The purpose of these public hearings is to provide an opportunity for each applicant and citizens to present information, ask questions, and express opinions. Since these proceedings are televised and recorded for the public record, anyone wishing to speak must step up to the podium and give their name and address before addressing the Commission. Staff reports are prepared and provided to the applicant and Planning Commission in advance of the meeting. The first step in the hearing will be for staff to present a summary of the report. The applicant will then have the opportunity to briefly explain the proposal and provide additional information or comments. Anyone wanting to speak in favor or against the proposal will then be heard. Upon completion of the testimony, the hearing will be closed to public comment, and the Planning Commission will then discuss and act on the matter. 2 complete agenda packets are available for viewing on the back table. Please do not remove those items. The City Council will act on agenda items 6.1, the 7430 80th Street Cannabis application, the 6.2 Van Meter expansion application, 6.3 Van Meter exterior storage at their meeting on Wednesday, January 21st, 2026, which starts at 7 p.m. The City Council will act on agenda item 6.4, Yellow Tree Apartments, at the meeting on Wednesday, February 18th, 2026. All right, next moving on to item number 6, public hearings and applications. We have application A, CUP/V 2025-32, 7430 80th Street Cannabis Retail Sales, and planner Sam Pierrette will be presenting.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good evening, members of the Planning Commission. Tonight, Venus Creations LLC has submitted a conditional use permit and variance request for a cannabis retail business at 7430 80th Street, Suite 105. The property is zoned mixed-use business district, and they propose to operate out of the former Subway location in the east building on the site. Mixed use allows cannabis retail sales with a conditional use permit. As we have heard me talk about multiple times over the months here, the State Office of Cannabis Management licenses cannabis retail operations. Preliminary licensure has been issued for this operation by the OCM. However, final licensure cannot be issued until the city makes a decision on zoning approvals. No sale of adult use cannabis may take place on site until that state license is issued and then a city registration is approved. A city registration would not be issued until after the state license was issued. The applicant proposes to meet some standards of City Code Title 11-418, including hours of operation, signage, and parking requirements. A security plan was submitted to our Director of Public Safety for review as required. Cannabis retailers are required to be at least 1,000 feet from other cannabis or lower potency hemp edible retailers when measured from the storefront to the property line of the other business. The proposed location would be less than 1,000 feet from the property line of Moonsoon Tobacco, which was approved by Council for a low potency hemp edible CUP on December 3rd. The planning commission may remember that during Moonsoon's request, we did not talk about the setbacks from schools, daycares, and park features. That is because our city code does not require low potency retailers to meet those setbacks. Those setbacks are required only for these recreational or adult use cannabis retailers like we are considering tonight. The applicant has submitted a variance request to this 1,000-foot distance requirement. The applicant submitted the variance request to allow a cannabis retail business less than 1,000 feet from an existing low-potency hemp edible retailer. Variance requests must show practical difficulty and as to why the ordinance cannot be met in a specific case. The 1,000-foot buffer was established by the city council and the city code to uphold the safety, morals, and the general welfare of the city. The plight of the applicant is not unique to this property, as there are several properties in the city of Cottage Grove that cannot have a cannabis retail business due to the buffer distances in city code. The 1,000-foot buffer also mimics the buffer required for off-sale liquor establishments. However, I will note that our liquor establishment distance is measured from building to building, not from building to property line. With that, staff has prepared a recommendation of denial for your consideration tonight, and I'm happy to answer questions, and the applicant is also available.
Thank you. Any questions for staff? Commissioner Fisher.
Hi. First question is, what is the actual distance between this shop and the Moonsoon Tobacco shop? Because I see that it's less than 1,000, but what is the actual distance? Did that get measured?
So on the map that's on the screen, Commissioner Fisher, Mr. Chair, it is approximately 930 feet, as I mentioned, to that property line.
930?
Yes.
Okay. And then my second question is, we were talking about it has to be more than 500 feet from an attraction within a public park that is regularly used by minors. So I would like to know how you decide what is an attraction, first of all, and second of all, how you determine if it's one that's used by minors or not, because that's a golf course, or a golf or disc golf course too. So I just thought that was odd that the hammock post was called out as an attraction that minors use.
Yeah, Commissioner Fisher, Mr. Chair, so in our code, it does specify certain things such as, public park, restrooms, pavilions, picnic shelters, and also disc golf, nets are also included in city code that we measure from. In this case, when we're thinking about the hammock area, this was at staff's discretion, I suppose, where the hammock area would be a place where children or minors could congregate at times, and it would be in the, what the ordinance was meant to kind of buffer us from.
Okay. Thank you.
Further questions for staff? All right, seeing none, does the applicant have anything they'd like to add? Please state your name and address for the record.
Good evening, members of the Planning Commission. My name is Matt Lyson. My address is 17870 Jaguar Circle in Lakeville, 55044. I'm appearing on behalf of Venus Creations LLC and the owner, Miss Rebecca Hidalgo, who cannot be here tonight. And I just wanted to read a statement that was prepared on her behalf. Venus Creations LLC seeks a conditional use permit and variance to operate a cannabis retail store at 7430 80th Street South, Suite 105, within an existing multi-tenant retail building in a mixed-use district. The company is owned by Miss Rebecca Hidalgo, who has long aspired to responsibly operate her own retail cannabis store that is compliant, secure, and community-minded. As was mentioned, a particular note tonight, Ms. Hidalgo respectfully submits a variance request to allow the operation of a cannabis retail dispensary here at this location. This variance is necessary because city code requires a minimum separation of 1,000 feet between cannabis and lower potency hemp edible uses measured from storefront to property line. The proposed location of Ms. Hidalgo's store is approximately 930 feet from the nearest store line of a low potency hemp retailer. The variance is consistent with the City of Cottage Grove's 2040 comprehensive plan for the future use of mixed use districts. which at the time of its adoption, cannabis use and legalization was not yet being considered. In this case, cannabis retail aligns with the vision of mixed use intended to allow complementary uses to support economic development goals. Furthermore, the proposal complies with all other distance requirements, such as being 500+ feet from any parks or daycares, etc. Granting the variance will also not harm public welfare or adjacent properties. The applicant must obtain local licensure and pass a comprehensive state inspection ensuring compliance with stringent security measures, including 24/7 surveillance, alarms, and restricted access vaults. Lastly, the variance will not impair air or light to adjacent properties, nor will it increase traffic congestion, fire risk, or endanger public health or safety. So in summary, the requested variance is consistent with the city's comprehensive plan. It allows reasonable use of the property, and it will not harm public welfare or adjacent properties. For these reasons, Venus Creations respectfully requests that the approval of the variance be granted and the conditional use permit also be granted. Thank you for your time.
All right, is there any questions for the applicant? All right, thank you, sir. At this time, I will open the public hearing. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak for or against this application? Seeing none, I will close the public hearing. Further discussion from the commission? Commissioner Steckman.
Thank you, Board Chair. I don't have any concern about the subject matter that this is a store that would sell recreational use marijuana, but it seems to me that the proximity to the Monsoon one could be problematic, and that's why we have these rules in place. I note that Monsoon achieved approval just weeks before this one came before, so it was kind of almost a race to City Hall. But the fact is that Monsoon did come here first and did get the approval first. So at this point, I would say that I'm inclined to not approve or not recommend an approval of this request.
Okay. Further discussion? Commissioner Fisher.
I have maybe a clarification question. So when you're measuring from, you said something about storefront to property line versus storefront to storefront. So when you're measuring the distance from this potential establishment to Monsoon, you're going from property line to property line? Did I understand that right? I'm sorry, I'm getting confused.
No, that's fine. Commissioner Fisher, Mr. Chair. So we are measuring from the proposed storefront, on the map in front of you would be that approximately where that green dot is,
Okay.
to the property line of the Monsoon Tobacco Store. So, their property line, it ends at the line where the blue circle is. So that's where, we're measuring that distance from.
Okay, and 70 feet is really what we're missing here. So theoretically speaking, if they were to get a suite maybe down like where Tom Moy used to be, they potentially could have this granted.
So,
Or they could
Running-
have, not the
running-
variance, they would need a variance.
running the calculations, getting closer down towards where, Tom Moy used to be, actually gets them about too close to the hammock area in the.
Post, I forgot about the post. Okay, gotcha. I agree with Commissioner Steckman, just, we have these rules in place for a reason. I feel like this one may be splitting hairs a little bit, but ultimately, following the guidelines that we've set forth makes the most sense to me. So, thank you.
Okay. I'll add that I know this is relatively new for the community and for a lot of communities. And I would agree with Commissioner Steckman and Fisher's comments. My concern would be, we don't have enough data to try and determine whether 70 feet close enough, 80 feet close enough. So, until we have more experience to determine what kind of challenges these businesses may or may not have, I would err on the side of following the letter of our rules, which is 1,000 feet. And, maybe sometime in the future, that distance may change. But for now, I would recommend and support denial based on the findings of fact. Any further discussion? All right, seeing none, I'll look for a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move to deny the request as outlined in the application and the materials.
We have a motion to deny based on the findings of fact listed in the staff report from Commissioner Steckman. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
A second from Commissioner Fishers.
Can we clarify denial, we recommend denial of the conditional use permit and variance? Because there's two,
Permit and the request is a conditional use permit. It's just the conditional use permit at this point? Is that correct?
it's both, right?
CUP, and the
It's
variance?
both.
So both.
Emily just nodded, it's both.
So we have a motion to deny the conditional use permit and variance from Commissioner Steckman and a second
Yes.
from Commissioner Fisher. Further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of denial signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed, say nay. Motion passes 4-0, and that will be on the, where was that? January 21st agenda for the City Council. All right, next we will move on to items 6.2 and 6.3, and also referred to as B and C. Senior, or Planner Kelly Becker will present, and I believe Kelly's going to present both B and C, and then we will have motions independently on B and independently on C. But just for continuity of discussion, since they're kind of related, she's going to discuss both of them at the same time.
Correct. All right. Good evening, Mr. Chair and members of the commission. Before you is a proposal for a conditional use permit, site plan review, and variance request for Van Meter. Tonight's request from the applicant consists of two separate applications on two different parcels. However, as you mentioned, the requests go hand in hand with the overall objective from Van Meter, so I'll discuss them both together tonight. The first request consists of a site plan review and variance to add two building expansions onto their existing main facility building. Their second request consists of a conditional use permit for outdoor storage at their wire center facility. The proposed outdoor storage area would be used to temporarily store material from the main facility while that site is under construction for the building expansions. So I'll first speak to the applicant's request for the building expansions at their main facility, which is located at 7450 95th Street South. The main facility parcel is approximately 20 acres and is surrounded by a mix of park property to the north and west, residential property to the south and west, and other industrial property to the east. The parcel is currently zoned I-1 General Industrial and is guided as industrial in the 2040 Comprehensive Plan. Warehouse and distribution facilities are a permitted use in the I-1 district. The previous property owner, Werner Electric, received site plan approval in 2007 for the original building construction with office and warehouse space. The site plan approval also included plans for future office and warehouse expansions. In 2015, Werner Electric submitted plans to construct the pre-approved expansions, which included a reduced amount of warehouse space than what was originally approved for in 2007. Part of the expansions with this proposal will encompass a portion of that excess square footage, which was previously approved. All standards and setbacks were met at the time of those approvals for both the original building construction and that first set of expansions. The current proposal consists of two building expansions referred to as Expansion A and Expansion B. Expansion A on the northeast side of the existing building will be approximately 38,000 square feet of warehouse space. Expansion B will be approximately 86,000 square feet of warehouse, receiving, and will call operations. Additional improvements to the site include an expanded parking lot area on the west side of the building and a new heavy-duty bituminous on the east side of Expansion B at the loading dock area. There are two existing accesses to the site. The west entrance is the main entrance to the office and will call area, and the east entrance is the truck access to loading areas, and no changes to those accesses are proposed with this application. Per city code, one parking space per each 250 square feet of office space and one parking space per each 2,000 square feet of warehouse space is required. With the current combination of office and warehouse space in the existing building, 274 parking spaces are required, and 302 parking spaces actually exist on the property today, providing a surplus of 28 spaces. So between both expansions, an additional 123,893 square feet of warehouse space will be added, which would require an extra 62 parking spaces. However, by taking the difference of the 62 parking spaces required with the new additions from that surplus 28 spaces on site currently, only an additional 34 parking spaces were required with this proposal, and the applicant has provided 38 parking spaces. And all other parking standards have been met. The proposed additions will meet code requirements for exterior materials on structures in the industrial districts. The applicant has proposed the additions be comprised of almost 100% Class 1 and Class 2 materials, including a combination of precast concrete panels, stucco, brick veneer, split-faced concrete block veneer, and aluminum storefront and curtain wall. Building materials have been chosen to match the exterior finishes on the existing building, and each new facade will not exceed 100 feet or more of uninterrupted length. The total height of the expansions will be approximately 42 feet, which is similar in height to the existing portions of the building. The areas of the site requiring landscaping, which include the parking islands, parking lot perimeter, sides of the building, and loading areas on the east side of the building, all meet landscaping and screening standards. Additional trees and shrubs have been included north of Expansion A to provide extra screening from the park property to the north. The site will maintain 37% open space area, where only 15% of open space is required by code in the industrial districts. The submitted landscaping plan meets the code standards with 19 overstory deciduous trees, 18 coniferous trees, and 41 shrubs proposed based on the total amount of site disturbance. And additional tree mitigation is not required as less than 50% of the existing trees are being removed. In 2022, Van Meter received a conditional use permit for construction of a 10-foot tall black vinyl coated chain link fence with an opaque fabric for screening and securing the exterior storage and loading dock area on the east side of the property. The existing fencing will remain and be extended south to align with Expansion A to screen that loading area and the trash collection area of the building on the east side as required by code. A new row of trees are also proposed along the east side of Expansion B on the outside of the fence to minimize the visual impact of the fence itself. Along the west side of the building, a new 10-foot vinyl fence will be added to screen the generator and mechanical areas of the building as required per code. City Code standard requires reflected glare of light spill not to exceed a half-foot candle as measured on the property line when abutting a residential property, or 1-foot candle as measured on the property line when abutting any business or industrial parcel. Lighting must be directed downward, and the proposed building lights and parking lights with this application are compliant with code standards. I'll note that there are 0-foot candles projected at the north property line from Expansion A, reflecting onto the park property. The applicant is proposing grading in multiple areas of the site to account for the additions and stormwater improvements. Stormwater runoff will be treated with existing and new infrastructure, including a new underground stormwater filtration system, a new filtration basin in the northeast corner, a realigned filtration basin on the south side, and an existing filtration basin on the southeast corner. So a new stormwater maintenance agreement will be required with this application to address those site changes. And the applicant is working with city staff to address any outstanding comments included in the engineering memo to ensure that all the city code standards are met. A 50-foot wide drainage and utility easement runs along the entire east property line. Minor encroachments into that easement include 2 sets of emergency stairs on Expansion A, light poles, trees, and a fire hydrant. These items were all allowed to encroach into the easement area since they do not impact the overall drainage patterns or water flow in that area. An additional 30-foot wide drainage and utility easement containing a sanitary sewer line runs through the southwest area of the property. The proposed parking lot expansion and proposed and existing private utilities will be placed over that 30-foot wide easement. Again, these encroachments will not impact the function of the easements, and an encroachment agreement will be required prior to the issuance of any building permits for all of those identified encroachments. The encroachment agreement will identify the responsibilities of the landowner for any removal or replacement of the items encroaching should the city need to access that area. Lastly, a private 15-foot wide electric easement is located on the south end of the existing building, extending to 95th Street. The applicant will need to secure approval from the easement holder for the placement of expansion B over the easement area or vacate that easement prior to the issuance of a building permit again. And it's my understanding the applicant has been in correspondence with the easement holder to gain that approval. The variance request tonight is for a setback reduction. The abutting property to the north is Hamlet Park, which is zoned R3, single-family residential. City code requires a 100-foot rear yard setback for industrial property when abutting the residential districts. The proposed expansion A on the northeast corner of the building will be within the 100-foot rear yard setback. So the property owner has submitted a variance request to allow expansion A to be approximately 64 feet from that rear lot line. Expansion A has been designed to align with the existing portion of the building, which is currently within the required setback area as well, but was compliant with all setback standards at the code at the time that it was reviewed and approved in 2007 and 2015. And all other setback and code standards have been met for both of those proposed expansions. The applicant, I'll note, was limited from further expanding proposed expansion B or positioning expansion A differently due to several drainage and utility easements on site and the overall site circulation patterns. Warehousing is a permitted use in the industrial district, and the expansion has been designed to minimize the impact to the surrounding neighborhood by providing sufficient screening measures and positioning that proposed expansion A no closer to the lot line than the existing portion of the building. So that said, the findings of fact are included in the Planning Commission packet in favor of this variance request. So now I'll transition over and speak on the exterior storage conditional use permit request at the applicant's leased space, the Wire Center facility. The property is located at 7601 100th Street South, Suite 100, which is within Building 1 of the Cottage Grove Logistics Park plat owned by Northpoint. The parcel is approximately 20 acres and is surrounded by a mix of residential and other industrial property. The site is currently zoned I-1 General Industrial and is guided as industrial in the 2040 Comprehensive Plan. Storage inside the principal structure and warehousing are permitted uses in the I-1 district. City Code Title 1192 requires a conditional use permit for exterior storage exceeding 5,000 square feet in the industrial districts. The applicant is proposing 10,000 square feet of enclosed outdoor storage area over the existing trailer parking area on site. The site will retain 14 trailer parking stalls, which the applicant has indicated exceeds their operational needs on site. And the site also currently exceeds the required number of regular parking stalls. The applicant is proposing an 8 to 10 foot tall vinyl fence to fully enclose the outdoor storage area, which will be used to store conduit, currently being stored at the main facility while that site is under construction. The proposed fence will be sufficient to screen the storage area from view of public right-of-way and the adjacent property as required by code. And materials in that storage area may not exceed the height of the fence. So with that, the recommendations for both applications are listed on the screen before you. And we do have representatives from Van Meter present tonight as well for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions for staff? All right. Commissioner Bott.
So the parking space requirement, is it for general public or is it just a total number and it could be divided any way the applicant wants? Could the applicant reserve those additional parking spots for certain users?
Yes, Commissioner Bott, members of the commission, that is based on the total warehouse square footage, so for warehouse needs.
So there is no requirement per se that they need to be opened up for public or general use?
Yeah.
Okay.
Further questions? All right, seeing none, does the applicant have anything they'd like to add? All right, seeing none? At this time, I will open the public hearing. Well, so we're going to break this up into two pieces. The first piece is a site plan and variance 2025-031, which is the building expansion at the main facility. So I will open the public hearing for that. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to discuss the expansion that is being presented? Seeing none, I will close the public hearing. Further discussion from the commission.
I'll say something, or do you want to go first?
Commissioner Fisher.
I think that the variance should be granted on this one, just considering that it makes sense that it falls in line with the existing building. And because our setbacks have changed over the years, it makes sense that this variance should be granted. So that's all I really have to say. It seems like Van Meter's growing and growing and growing. I think that's awesome for our community to have such a business that's growing and needing more space again. So that's my thought.
Commissioner Steckman.
I wish I would have gone first, because that's exactly what I would have said, so, yeah. I'm grateful. I think I'm inclined to say yes, so, yeah.
All right. Commissioner Bott?
I have a question for the applicant.
Certainly. Would the applicant please approach the podium and state their name and address for the public record?
Good evening. My name is Nate Jensma. I'm the COO at Van Meter. My personal address, if you're looking for that, 470 Wilder Drive, Cedar Rapids, Iowa.
So my question,
Commissioner Bott?
is regarding the requirement for this additional outdoor warehousing. Since we have already these new buildings coming up in this other location, what makes you, what drives you for this additional outdoor warehousing
Right.
requirement?
Yeah, good question, Commissioner. So the permit for the additional space, the outside storage, that's what your question is about? Yeah, the request for that is really a result of the fact that we are going to be operating at our existing facility, full supporting our customers while expanding. And so that's going to take up the outside storage at our existing facility as trucks are coming in and out. And so we aren't going to have the ability to store outside material at our existing facility while the construction is going on. So we're asking for the ability to store outside material at our leased space, at our wire center today, while the construction is going on. And then eventually we will move all of our operations back to the 95th Street once the construction is complete.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, just to clarify, that particular outdoor storage space is portion B, and right now we're talking about portion A. So it's okay, it's okay. Just as we look for a motion and take a vote, we're voting on A, which is the site plan review and the variance for the building setback. And I will agree with comments from Commissioner Fisher and Steckman that the continuity of the building, to extend that in the area that they are and what they're requesting a variance for makes total sense. We haven't seen any negative impacts from the building being any closer to that side setback so far. So having it linearly continue in the same way, I see no negative impact. Plus, it's a non-buildable area out in that direction anyway, so I really see no concerns with that at all. So those are my comments on that. Any further discussion? All right, so I will look for a motion.
I will make a motion to recommend approval of both the site plan review and the variance for the application.
Does that include the findings of fact listed in the
Yes,
staff
of
report?
course it does. The finding of facts
We have
stipulated in the report.
We have a motion for approval, including the findings of fact listed in the staff report for the site plan and variance 2025-031 by Commissioner Fisher. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second from Commissioner Steckman. Further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed signify by saying nay. I didn't have to do that, but motion passes 4-0. And that will be on the January 21st, 2026 agenda for the City Council. All right, now we will move on to item 6.3/C, the CUP 2025-032 Van Meter exterior storage. I will open the public hearing. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak for or against the open storage request from the applicant? Seeing none, I will close the open hearing. Further discussion from the commission.
I'll just say one thing. I think we've.
Commissioner Fisher.
We've got other CUPs for storage on that property. So this seems pretty straightforward that we would allow this one as well.
Thank you. I would agree. We already have outdoor storage in that area. It's a completely industrial base. It's not adjacent to any type of residential use. So I also agree that the variance would be acceptable in this case. With no further what's that?
Conditional use permit, not variance.
Conditional use permit. Thank you. Further discussion? Seeing none, I would look for a motion for the, where do we go here? CUP 2025-32 Van Meter exterior storage. Do we have a motion? Commissioner Bond.
I do propose motion for approving the conditional use permit for that application.
Does that include the finding of fact, subject to conditions stipulated in the staff report?
Subject to stipulations specified by the staff.
So we have a motion to approve from Commissioner Bott, including the subject to the conditions stipulated in the staff report. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second from Commissioner Fisher. Further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, say nay. Motion passes 4-0. Next, we will move on to item, and that will be on the January 21st agenda for the City Council. Next, we will move on to item D, which is a planned unit development, site plan review, and remind me again what PP is?
Preliminary plat.
Preliminary plat, thank you. For 2025-30 Yellow Tree Apartments, and Senior Planner Sam Purett will be presenting.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Members of the commission, tonight Yellow Tree Development has applied for a site plan review, planned unit development, and preliminary plat for a proposed 186-unit market rate apartment building on East Point Douglas Road. There are two parcels involved in this request, Everwood Outlot D and Fratelloni's South Point Ridge Outlot B, both platted in 2007. A conservation easement was also established above the 860 contour, and a trail easement was established on portions of Outlot D in 2007 as well. Continuing that train of thought, a conservation easement was established over all of Outlots D and C of the Everwood Edition in 1997. The conservation easement was amended in 2007 in response to proposed development on Outlot D. No development, including grading, excavating, or structure placement, may occur above that 860 contour line, which is the area still in the conservation easement. The conservation easement was established in favor of the Minnesota Land Trust in the city of Cottage Grove. A former farm road was also preserved as a trail easement, and this must remain as a natural pathway with very limited grading and excavating allowed. The farm road originally connected East Point Douglas to what is now Aspen Cove to the north. The trail easement is also referred to as the northern 60% of the farm road in conservation documents that were recorded in 2007. The lower 40% of that original farm road is not in a conservation easement and may be amended as the city sees fit, as long as that pedestrian connection is preserved in some way from East Point Douglas up to Aspen Cove. The conservation easement and trail easement greatly restrict the buildable area on this parcel, as well as the varying topography present. The developer had to design their building and grading around these areas. The land trust must approve the proposed trail configuration and any grading within the trail easement, and staff has been having ongoing discussions with the land trust about the project. It should be noted, there is no conservation easement on Outlot B of Fratelloni's South Point Ridge. Due to the site constraints, including the topography and conservation easements, the applicant shows their parking lot entrance over the west property line onto city-owned property, which is that Outlot B. As noted, the applicant has proposed to purchase this parcel from the city, and the parcels must be combined to avoid any setback or ownership issues in the future. Two combined parcels that are in two different plats, a new plat must be recorded. Therefore, the applicant has prepared Everwood 6th edition and included the required drainage and utility easements. The property is currently zoned mixed use and is also guided in the 2040 comprehensive plan as mixed use. The proposed density is 37.2 units per acre, where 20 to 40 units per acre is allowed. The applicant has requested planned unit development, or a PUD, for the proposed project. PUDs are zoning tools that we use to allow flexibility in our zoning standards without a variance in unique situations. PUDs are used in unique situations when a project achieves the strategic goals and initiatives of the city where limitations exist. The proposal tonight, located on land with that existing conservation easement and that varying topography that limit the buildable area, make this a unique consideration. Providing diverse housing opportunities while preserving these natural features supports the use of a planned unit development for a building height, building setbacks, parking ratios, and architectural materials. The applicant is proposing a 6-story apartment building with 4 levels of residential and 2 levels of underground covered parking. The planned unit development has been applied for building height to exceed 55 feet. Due to the site's topography, the tallest portion of the building from the lowest adjacent grade to the top of the parapet will be 77 feet. However, the building is being built into the hillside, so as you move around the building to the north, the height from the lowest adjacent grade to the top will actually be 45 feet. When we're measuring building height, we may remove 3 feet of that parapet height, resulting in a total height of 74 feet, which is similar to the Legends Apartments, which are across East Point Douglas Road from this proposed development. The Legends is 73 feet tall to the top of the gabled roof. The planned unit development has also requested to reduce property line setbacks from 20 feet required on a corner lot to 10 feet due to those buildable area restrictions by the conservation easement and topography. The planned unit development has also proposed to allow a reduced parking ratio on site. The applicant has proposed 297 spaces where 298 are required. They have proposed 39 surface stalls and 258 underground stalls. A fire truck turnaround area must be provided on the hard surface on the west side of the building over mountable curbs, which are curbs that the fire truck would be able to cross up and down over. They're not the traditional raised curbs. To accommodate the truck turning area, up to 3 parking spaces may need to be marked as a fire lane. Staff is comfortable with reducing the required parking on site by a total of 4 spaces down to a 1.58 parking ratio, or 1.58 spaces per unit. This is comparable to the Roars apartment building that was recently approved at the end of the cul-de-sac on East Point Douglas, which had a 1.5 unit parking ratio, and the Legends Apartments across the street with a 1.2 space per unit ratio. The applicant's proposed access onto East Point Douglas must meet required sightlines, existing characteristics of the Legend sign, the East Point Douglas curvature, and a hill means that intersection site distances are challenging. However, the stopping site distances can be met, and staff will continue to work with the developer to ensure a safe access to the site. The development will be accessed off of East Point Douglas Road, as I mentioned. Prior to the Roars apartment project, a traffic study was completed, and those numbers were used to analyze the proposed Yellow Tree project as well. Current daily traffic on East Point Douglas is approximately 1,100 vehicles per day. The Roars and Yellow Tree developments combined would add approximately 1,490 trips per day for a total in the future of 2,600 trips per day. There is sufficient capacity on East Point Douglas and on Hardwood Avenue to accommodate the additional trips. The intersection of East Point Douglas and Hardwood was also studied, and the additional vehicles generated by the Roars and Yellow Tree developments would not warrant an always stop control at this intersection. There may be some additional queuing during peak hours for turning movements, however, the road is designed to accommodate this. An existing unpaved natural trail exists on the property, connecting the sidewalk on East Point Douglas up to Aspen Cove on that trail that I mentioned earlier. As mentioned, there is an existing trail easement that is part of the conservation easement that must remain on site in its natural state. The applicant has proposed to connect that existing easement with East Point Douglas Road to the west by running a lightly gravelled trail segment down the rear of the building, rear of the parking area, down to the sidewalk, and this will be a public trail connection. There are also proposed to be stairs added on the east side of the building to connect to the East Point Douglas sidewalk for residents. The stairway connection would go over a city-owned parcel on the east and will require an encroachment agreement. Pedestrian connections to Hardwood Avenue would be via the existing sidewalk on East Point Douglas. Pedestrian crossings are not encouraged at East Point Douglas and Hardwood because pedestrians will be crossing 5 lanes of uncontrolled traffic, and there are no pedestrian ramps here that would encourage that type of activity. In 2025, the city installed a new signal at Hardwood Avenue and Hardwood Court, which provides a safer, controlled crossing. The pedestrian crossing at Hardwood Avenue and Harkness, which was striping and ramps, were removed to direct pedestrians to that new signaled crossing. A new painted crossing was also added on East Point Douglas on the south side of Hardwood Avenue as well. Stormwater on site will be addressed using an underground stormwater management system in a biofiltration basin. The applicant must submit detailed retaining wall plans for the site to ensure that the walls do not negatively impact the flow of stormwater. The applicant proposes to provide landscaping on site that complies with our landscape city code requirements. Up to 40% of existing trees may be removed on a site per city code. A large amount of trees will be preserved within that conservation easement area, of course, so that ratio is met. The applicant has requested with the plan unit development that a reduction in the requirement that parking areas with more than 25 spaces have 8% of the parking area in landscaped islands. This request is reasonable due to the limited amount of surface parking they're proposing, the amount of area that they are conserving, not just within the conservation easement, but also around the proposed trail and the limited amount of area they're proposing to disturb on that outlot B that the city owns. The applicant will be responsible for thinning some overgrowth and brush on a MnDOT-owned parcel to the south along East Point Douglas. And the developer must maintain that parcel to the back of the curb using sod and irrigation. A city-owned parcel is located to the east and is used as a stormwater feature, and the developer must overseed this parcel and also will be responsible for maintaining that to the back of the curb or back of the sidewalk. The applicant has also requested consideration in the plan unit development to reduce class 1 or 2 materials. The applicant proposes to use 64% class 1 or 2 materials where 65% is required. They would ensure that the walls facing East Point Douglas are comprised of at least 65% class 1 or 2 materials. Going back to the Roars project, again, they were approved with 61% class 1 or 2 materials. However, and they did make sure that the walls of the building that faced Highway 61 were at least 65% class 1 or 2 materials. Site lighting shall not exceed 1/2 foot candle at residential property lines or 1 foot candle at commercial property lines. An updated lighting plan shall be submitted that shows the foot candles at all of the property lines on the property. With that, the recommendation is on the screen for your consideration tonight. I will note one condition, that is that prior to council consideration of this request, a neighborhood meeting must be held with the residents at the Legends Apartments to hear their input and everything like that. With that, I will stand for questions, and the applicant is also available tonight.
All right, thank you. Questions for staff? Commissioner Steckman?
You go first, sorry.
Thank you. I appreciate the presentation. I do have some curiosity about some aspects of it that I'd like to convey, and maybe you can enlighten me a little bit. So, first of all, with respect to the planned unit development aspect of this, so I did hear, I think I heard you say that that is being considered in this case because of the unique topography or location of this application. So, my first question is it commonplace these days for the city of Cottage Grove to grant planned unit, the PUDs? Is it a common occurrence to grant something along these lines?
Commissioner Steckman, Mr. Chair, I would say that, so the planned unit development is intended to be rarely used, similar to like a variance situation where, like we've kind of spoke about variances, it's a unique situation, unique to each property, and this planned unit development is used where they can meet our code and meet the intent and the goals of the city and of the council, just with a little bit of give and take in some areas.
And to continue along those lines, so is the necessity born out of the size of the proposed project, or is there some other aspect? Is it the topography, or is it a combination of both, or something else that I haven't mentioned so far?
Sure, Commissioner Steckman, good question. So what I will say is that there have been several other developers who have looked at this site in the past. As I mentioned, it was platted in 2007. These developers could not make the numbers pencil out when we're talking about where that conservation easement is, the trail easement, the existing topography on site, and then just the sheer costs of when we have a restricted buildable area like this, there's not room for exterior parking. So we're having to do the covered parking, which is an additional expense, of course. So I would say this particular parcel has been looked at several times, and it is definitely a unique one that this developer has found a way to meet most of our codes and ordinances.
Okay. If it wasn't being used for a multi-family or a multi-unit type of property, would it be suitable for a different type of use that would not require a PUD?
Good question. If a developer were to come in and request anything that's also permitted in the mixed-use district, so we're talking retail or other sorts of commercial ventures, of course, they would be more than welcome to do that, and if they can do that without the planned unit development, that would be great. However, just when I look at this property just as a planner and everything, I don't see how anybody would be able to avoid the planned unit development in this case, just given the status of the site.
Okay. Following up a little bit more, if you don't mind.
Do your follow-up questions have to do with something that's appropriate to the ordinances, or is it specific to the PUD?
The
Or-
PUD.
Okay, just if you could
Wrap it up.
focus up on what would be a condition of approval or denial, not necessarily the tools that staff is using to accomplish the application.
Oh, okay. All right, well, I guess there's this question then. I know that there was consideration or thinking about the vehicular traffic, but was there something that was along the pedestrian traffic? And is that an appropriate question, Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Okay.
So regarding the pedestrian traffic, I am going to bring up our Assistant City Engineer, Crystal Raleigh. She has provided me with all of this wonderful information that I talked about.
Good evening, Commissioner Steckman. The pedestrians were considered in the application here. The characteristics of Hardwood Avenue through this area are very challenging as it relates to pedestrian crossings. Sam, I'm going to take back, yes, to this drawing. These curves that are currently on Hardwood Avenue do not provide adequate sight distance for safe pedestrian crossings. So we struggle with having our pedestrians cross at those locations. We did construct a traffic signal at Hardwood and Hardwood down in the southeast corner of this image. With that intersection, we have really safe pedestrian crossings. Now, according to Minnesota statute, pedestrians can cross at any intersection. And so while pedestrians could cross Hardwood, we do not want to mark that as a pedestrian crossing due to the safety concerns that we have as staff. We don't want to provide pedestrians with a false sense of security in those other crossing locations. So we would like to promote crossing at that safer location with the traffic signal. Does that answer your questions?
It does, but it does also prompt another one. So for example, if somebody were living at the proposed development and wanted to visit the sushi cafe, for example, under this particular proposal, they would have to kind of trek all the way down to Hazelwood Court, cross over there, and then come back up and then head that way. And I'm just wondering, is there any other way to mitigate that? I don't know if there would be some kind of a little additional way to have them cross over into the parking lot just south of the building of Kohl's, or if there would be something else that could be done.
Yeah, Commissioner Seckman, Mr. Chair, when the Legends apartment building went in, there was consideration made for a sidewalk connection onto the Kohl's parking lot from East Point Douglas Road. And Kohl's was not excited about that proposal. And also, there's a really steep hill there. It's hard to see on a flat image here, but there's not a way to make that ADA accessible with a sidewalk piece between East Point Douglas and Kohl's. Another issue is we would have to cross people from the north side of East Point Douglas to the south side. And at that curve, again, the sight distance isn't great. So that's another reason that we wouldn't want to cross folks right there.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Nothing further.
Commissioner Fisher.
I want to continue on with Commissioner Steckman's questions. So this particular intersection has given me pause in the past. I'm wondering, you talk about the traffic study and the additional trips, which is more than doubling the trips per day going down into this area. What is the threshold for having some sort of signal there, and how close are we to that threshold? Because my office is in this area. I am on this road all the time, and people are nuts on this road. Like, no offense, but people go fast around those curves. It's just not a great road to travel on. And I'm just curious what the threshold is and how close we are to it, because we've got to be close to it for that particular intersection.
Sure. Commissioner Fisher, Mr. Chair, I don't have those exact numbers of how close we are. I know in that previous traffic study, we were talking about 5,000 to 6,000 vehicles per day is what East Point Douglas can handle. A traffic study at the intersection is what would be needed to verify if those intersection controls are correct. The studies that have been done so far show that with the amount of traffic on Hardwood Avenue, it wouldn't be reasonable to stop Hardwood traffic. And the relatively small amount of traffic that we're adding with this development wouldn't be enough to warrant additional traffic controls at that intersection. Yes, there will be additional queuing. You will have to wait a little bit longer to take a left out of there. But that's not, that intersection isn't warranted for controls at this point.
Okay, I was just curious.
And we do traffic counts continually,
Right.
annually. So
Yep.
if things change in the future, perhaps the city will need to reconsider. But
Right.
at this point, we don't anticipate any changes at that intersection.
I will say I do appreciate the new stoplight, because taking a left off of Hardwood Court was sometimes impossible, so I do appreciate that, but maybe another one in the future. Maybe I'll get a light there someday, I don't know. So, thank you very much.
Yes.
Further discussion for staff? Questions for staff? All right, Commissioner Bott.
So my question goes on one of the stipulations that you have, which is a requirement to hold that neighborhood meeting. So my question is, why haven't we done that already?
Commissioner Bott, I'm going to let Sam answer that.
Thank you.
Commissioner, that is a very good question. So we have required, or that the applicant hold that neighborhood meeting. When they first applied, the timeline was really tight, and we are actually, this meeting we're having tonight is actually a week earlier than our traditional planning commission meeting. And so the timeline was tight, and the applicant has reached out to staff at the Legends to hold that meeting. It's also a matter of getting a hold of them and figuring out a date and time that will work for everyone at the Legends that lives there.
So my follow-up then is, if after that meeting, would they come back with some modifications? Do we need to consider this application again?
So it would not come back unless something came out of that drastically changed the site plan in some way from what you're considering tonight. Any comments or concerns should be able to be added to the report for the city council, and they would take that into consideration when they make the final decision.
Okay, my last question. So did it in any way hinder the participation of public for this meeting here? I mean, were the people at Legends knew that, okay, we are considering this application today, and they had ample opportunity for them to voice any concerns if they had prior to the neighborhood meeting?
So Commissioner, we did send out the public notice. Obviously, that does not go to everyone who lives at the Legends. I'm not sure what their process is for sending out public notices. The notice was actually sent out 2 times because we were going to consider this at your November meeting. And then I actually did have a phone call with a resident at the Legends last Friday, and in the duration of our conversation, let her know what we were considering tonight, and that she could come and bring all her friends with her to make their comments heard, but that there would also be a meeting at the Legends that they would be able to participate in. And she sounded like she was looking forward to that meeting on site.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Fisher.
I guess, wanted to underline that we as planning commissioners have questions that we ask to make sure that we understand the proposal in front of us. And I just would really like to make sure that Commissioner Steckman's questions were all answered when he was stopped before. I think it's important that we all get our questions answered appropriately.
Commissioner Steckman.
Thank you for your concern. My questions, I think, are answered. I think I have like some hesitations that I'll explain in my appropriate comment section, but for now, I have no further questions. So, thank you.
Okay. Does the applicant have anything they'd like to add? Please state your name and address for the public record.
Good evening, members of the commission. I'm Rob Lubenow with Yellow Tree Development at 1834 East 38th Street in Minneapolis. I'm also joined by Patrick Sarver with Civil Site Groups. So he handled a lot of the concerns and complexities of the site. We're basically building in the side of a hill. And it is truly the most difficult project I've worked on in my career, without question. I think we're on 8 different iterations of how we could manage a lot of the complexities on the site. Sam did a great job explaining those. Open to answering any questions. I think that kind of comes down to the 3 concerns, the site, parking, and cladding, the way I see it. I'll answer your questions, but quickly, the site, if this was across the street or on any flat lot, we'd be under 50 feet. So just being in the side of a hill, the back of our building is a 4-story building, and we're exposed where the parking levels are. So willing to go more in depth on that. Same with parking. We are very comfortable with the parking requirements. We have other operating buildings. We manage our own buildings. It is actually in excess of what I think we need, but I'm comfortable, and really, as you see, we're over almost our entire amount of parking, which is not typical for any type of development outside of the urban core. And the last, the cladding, that is very difficult. I know we're working on how we, like this building to look. You do have your cladding requirements that we respect. I do think this is a good compromise of, what is aesthetically pleasing and very quality materials. So our concealed fastener metal panel that looks like the real wood is more durable than wood. We stand behind those products, and I think it does provide a great visual interest for the building that otherwise, we don't want to look at no offense, but a glass and brick building from like the 1970s. We're adding different undulations in the exterior, then also working with the cladding materials. So happy to answer any more questions. And if there are civil questions, Patrick is here as well.
Okay, questions for the applicant? Commissioner Fisher.
So just talking about the materials and kind of using certain materials on certain sides to
Yes.
kind of, is that a significant cost savings, or are you strictly just choosing those materials because you feel like they perform better?
Both, certainly both. There is immense cost impacts to your required materials. So in a typical building like this, what we have within our general parameters for this type of infill development, we're about $1 million over budget just on the cladding materials.
Sure.
So with that being said, we're not having vinyl siding, we're not having, a cheap wood product, or even, I think the concrete board is our cheapest material. But that wood look metal siding is certainly cheaper than brick. There's also concerns about how high you go with brick,
Right.
and then relief angles and everything else that come into play, so,
Okay.
yes.
Gotcha. I was just looking for the actual percentage. I think it was just a few percentage points less, right? So, okay, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Additional questions for the applicant? Just out of curiosity, we haven't had a apartment building with a double level underground parking. How do
Yep.
you get to each of those levels from outside?
Yeah, in this case, we're handling it by an interior ramp. So you'll access the rear of the building where some of our retaining walls and that public pathway goes. And then you'll have the option to, veer off on level 1 or stay on your current level or ramp up to the second level. So at first glance, we did not think a 2-level parking precast would be the most cost effective. It turned out to be. We are building into stone, and that stone is, what's the word for it? It's self-supporting, so we're not required to have shoring there. So that's kind of works with us in this case. We have to get rid of it. We have to get rid of the stone, but we also don't have to put in shoring, so it helps.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Further questions? Commissioner Bott.
I'm just following up on the parking question. So my initial understanding was that both levels were underground, but aren't they?
They would be on a typical lot. They would be, they are the type of parking that is typically subterranean parking. But on the back of our building and most of the sides, it is underground. But as the lot falls off at a very steep angle, the front of the building, it's exposed. So that's one of the difficulties that we're working with, is building into that hill, taking that triangle out, and then, we can't go down another 20 feet into more bedrock. And then the units on the back of our building would be in the side of a hill. So we'd lose all the back of the units on a double-loaded corridor. So that's not practical.
Okay, so when you enter the parking lot, you would be in the lower level, and then
Yeah.
you have the option to go up.
Yep, that's correct.
Thank you.
I just thought of a question
Commissioner
as
Fisher.
I heard that. So you'll be taking some rock out. Obviously,
Yes.
you'll be blasting, I would assume. Is there
Yep.
considerations for neighbors? We don't hear
Yeah.
of blasting often here, so
Yeah,
what does that all entail and what does that look like?
I agree, all type of construction is very intrusive. That is certainly intrusive. We had one contractor reach out to what is allowed in the city for blasting. That is one option. We don't know if it's the most cost effective. It's a light sandstone. So most likely, most of it can be removed by just a small tooth bucket, chipping away at it.
Okay.
That is our preferred method, but there might be areas where, the type of rock changes slightly that would need for some blasting.
Actual blasting.
Yes.
Does the city require a specific permit or anything to blast bedrock like that, or? Sorry to make you get up again.
Commissioner Fisher, Mr. Chair, we do have a process for blasting permits. I don't know that it's not necessarily a specific permit, but there is a very close back and forth with the engineering department. There's a lot of requirements for monitoring around the site when blasting is required. They have to put together a very detailed blasting plan. We televise utilities that are underground before blasting and after blasting to ensure there are no impacts to existing utilities on site. All those things are covered in that blasting plan that gets submitted to us for review. And then, once that's approved, we can move forward with it.
Thank you.
Yeah, and one note with that, just in brief conversation with the contractor, they said it is similar, if not less intrusive than pounding piles, because at least that energy can go upward with the stone. So it's probably pretty similar. I'm not sure if Roars is putting any shoring in, but, there's certainly impacts to pounding piles for shoring as well.
Thank you.
Any additional questions for the applicant? All right, seeing none, thank you.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
At this time, I will open the public hearing. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak for or against this application? Seeing none, I will close the public hearing. Further discussion? Commissioner Stegman.
Thank you. Okay, I've read this portion of the packet a couple of times, and I've tried to do my best to come to terms with what is being asked and my response. As a member of the Planning Commission, I do have some concerns. For example, about the traffic. So I know that in an ideal world, we would encourage the pedestrians to go the appropriate route all the way down to the signal crossing area, and then cross back and then make their way back up to Sushi Cafe or any of those other restaurants are up that way. And as being a former prosecutor of 15 years, I know that is often honored in its breach. And a lot of people will simply disregard the safe ways to cross streets. And if we add 186 units in this area, which is market rate, so it's not like designed for senior living or for other places, there will be, youngsters, people who are not fully appreciating the safety concerns that they would have, and instead would want to cross across Hardwood Avenue, especially with respect to that intersection with East Point Douglas Road. And for me, if a person is crossing over that, perhaps at night, certainly without the benefit of a crosswalk or flashing lights or any other thing to help indicate to the vehicular traffic that there may be pedestrians in this road crossing 5 lanes, it seems to me that that is a risk worth considering. And also, I did not see sufficient mitigation in terms of that part. I understand that other things can be done, but at least at this point in time, I do have concerns about the pedestrian traffic in this area. I know that vehicular traffic is expected to about double. It's not going to reach the capacity for this type of a street, but if additional developments come down the road, then it will be. And so then there would be a need for additional types of whatever type of traffic control to lessen the risk for pedestrians getting hurt. That's one of my concerns that I have about this. Another one is when it comes to the planned unit development. So I understand, again, this is used as a tool in a unique situation. Probably both sides benefit from having these types of tools being used, and there are proper times, I think, for a PUD to be used. My concern is, could it be the case where this particular applicant or this particular project could find a home someplace else in the city of Cottage Grove that does not require a PUD? I don't know. I don't know if that's an appropriate question for us to ask at this point in time, but it is something that has weighed on my mind, again, as a volunteer member of this planning commission. I also wonder, like, would there be another use for this real estate if something that was less ambitious would come along, either in size, complexity, or purpose, that would not require the granting of a PUD? Now, I don't know if that is the case. I know it's been studied in the past, and there have been multiple applicants in the past, and for whatever reason, if the numbers didn't work, that's fine. But I'm just wondering if maybe somebody moving forward would then find a workable solution for this real estate, for it to be developed and be a productive part of our community with respect to its character and also to the safety concerns that I've raised earlier today. And then finally, I would like to say that I sincerely do appreciate the enormous amount of time and energy that has been placed into the multiple iterations of this proposal. I understand it was the most difficult one that was undertaken ever, or in your career, or what have you. I get that, and I do welcome the idea of having additional housing come to Cottage Grove. There is a surplus of 3 bedrooms, I get that, and there's a deficit of smaller units, 2-bedroom, 1-bedroom, or a studio. Maybe that could be mitigated by finding a different location or reducing the size or what have you, but at this point in time, I'm thinking that this one might not be the appropriate use for this particular location.
Thank you. Any additional discussion?
I'm going to chime in on a couple
Commissioner
of things.
Fisher.
I appreciate Commissioner Steckman's thought process. One thing I'll weigh in is, I mean, this is a willing buyer, willing seller situation. So when you have a piece of real estate for sale, or somebody wants to sell it, and we have a willing buyer who wants to buy it and wants to put something in that, you know, we've had multiple studies with population and our housing needs in the community. And this is something that would help serve some of those needs. You know, a PUD is not a scary thing. It's not something that's rare, or that's, you know, something we don't see very often. And maybe I've just been here too long, so I've seen several. But they're not anything that I think needs to be like shied away from, or needs to be avoided in lieu of, you know, some other, you know, use, right? So I think ultimately it boils down to, there's a willing seller ready to sell this parcel and a willing buyer ready to develop it and to meet some needs of our community. So that being said, I don't know if it's our job or our, I don't know what the word is, to find a better spot for this particular building or for this particular parcel to develop into something different. I do agree with you about the traffic concerns and the pedestrian concerns at that corner. And like I was saying before, I've griped about that corner before with other applications too. So I appreciate your comments. I will just underline, we have a willing buyer, willing seller, and a PUD is a really useful way to use unique parcels. So.
Thank you. Commissioner Bott?
My concern is with regard to having, I don't know if we have allowed for enough public participation, because this was not discussed with or consulted with the neighborhood, the immediate neighborhood. So if we had done that, perhaps regarding concerns regarding traffic, either vehicular traffic or even foot traffic, would have come up more strongly, or I don't know, maybe less strongly. So that's one of my concerns that I have here is, I'm not sure if we had, if there has been enough advertisement so that we considered all options or all opinions. That's my concern.
Okay, thank you. Well, Director Schmidt.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, members of the commission, I'll just add a couple additional thoughts to your thoughts. Number one, I'll indicate we always send a public hearing notice to any resident within 500 feet of an application. So Commissioner Bott, to your concern that the neighborhood has not been informed, they absolutely have, and that's the public hearing held this evening to give them the opportunity. The neighborhood meeting is in addition to that notice of this application, obviously, to hear any concerns of that. So with any application, we're sending that notice out to within 500 feet. And then I'll simply add maybe just a little bit of history on the planned unit development. In the past, yes, we had seen quite a few planned unit developments follow. Typically, we'd see them with single-family residential projects, and that was well before we amended our 1974 zoning code, which, for lack of a better way to put it, was out of date, right? It didn't align with market trends. We were having to find ways to support development in Cottage Grove that didn't necessarily align with our code, that was completely out of trend, out of date, out of marketability, and to be able to support those particular developments. Now, when we rewrote our entire ordinance, understanding full well that we had in the past had to find quite a bit of flexibility, we ensured that there was clarity in our planned unit development section of our code, that if a project was to support the community as a whole, aligned with strategic goals of our council and our comprehensive plan, and of course, did not have a negative impact to the tax base of the community, right? By allowing for those flexibilities as a part of a project, that's when a planned unit development was an appropriate tool to use with a development, whether residential, commercial, industrial, right? And so just an additional thought process as you contemplate that planned unit development as a tool in, yes, unique instances, but our code is quite clear when we are able to implement and when we aren't. And so we've certainly evaluated that as clearly as we could with this particular project. So I'll just add those.
All right, thank you.
I have one more
Commissioner
comment.
Fisher.
I think it's great that you guys are having a community meeting at the Legends, because I think a lot of those people are older and maybe don't like to travel later at night or in the cold. And so I appreciate you giving them the opportunity to voice their opinions, even if it's not right here, right now. And I know I have full confidence that you guys will take notes, and that will be presented with the packet to the city council when they're deciding what to do. So thank you for doing that.
All right, thank you. I'll just want to clarify something. So with the community meeting happens, any responses that would be gained from the community meeting would be included in the packet for the city council to review. Is that correct?
Mr. Chair, members of the commission will absolutely ensure that we include an overview of any concerns that are raised as a part of that
So
neighborhood
if
meeting.
there's some type of significant thing that comes up in the community meeting, then it can be addressed by the city council.
Absolutely, Mr. Chair, the council will be aware of those conversations.
Okay. Thanks. And also I'd like to comment on, the use of the PUD is a standard tool that the city uses, even if it's not frequent. In this particular instance, we would have had some variances and a few other things to consider if we were doing it in a different format. And looking at the staff report, I don't find any of the variances that would have been requested in a more complex manner to be out of scope for what this project is asking for. So even if it wasn't a PUD, I would support, the application based upon what they're asking for and what variances they would have needed based on the information in the report. And with regards to the safety, there could be a single-family home on this lot with one person that's walking down that street, and they're going to have the same safety concerns that 168 residents are going to have. Anybody walking down that street is going to have to follow the rules, or as a community, we're going to need to make it safer. I see that as this develops, if there is a concern that the city can note and justify, that you do have an intersection there that you could put a light. So even if we're not doing it now, there would be opportunities in the future, if warranted, to increase the safety. So while I agree that there are some safety concerns, I think that under the circumstances, this particular development or any development going in there isn't going to make that better or worse. They are what they are from what I'm seeing. So I would support this application and hope that as safety concerns were identified beyond what they appear to be today, that we could mitigate those with the normal tools that we have. So those would be my comments. Further discussion? All right, seeing none, I would look for a motion.
I will make a motion to approve the site plan review, planned unit development, and preliminary plat, subject to the stipulations in the staff report.
We have a motion to approve from Commissioner Fisher for the PUD site plan and preliminary plat, 2025-030, subject to conditions stipulated in the staff report. Do we have a second?
I second.
We have a second from Commissioner Bott. Further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed signify by saying nay.
Nay.
Okay, motion passes 3-1, and that will be on the February 18th, 2026 agenda for the City Council. Next, we will move on to item number 7, approval of the minutes. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes from the November 24th meeting?
So moved.
We have a motion to approve. Do we have a second?
I second.
A motion to approve from Commissioner Steckman, a second from Commissioner Bott. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion passes 4-0. Reports. Director Schmidt is going to give us a recap of the November City Council meetings.
Mr. Chair, members of the commission, I'll actually go back just through December, which is unique because we're obviously a week early. So there is just one council meeting to give, and once over December 3rd. The bank's distro was it was called, for the warehouse, the low potency hemp edible warehouse use that you saw before you in November on 95th Street. The council did approve at that meeting. Moonsoon Tobacco for the retail sales of the low potency hemp edible was also approved at that meeting, which is on their 80th Street location. Obviously, we're familiar from this evening. The council also adopted their capital improvement plan for the next 5 years through 2030. So that is approved for that plan moving forward. And finally, I simply wanted to indicate the approval of the council for the update to the East Ravine AUAR, which will now be updated for the next 5 years, so you won't see it before you until 2030. Goofy to say 2030, it's almost hard to say 2026. But with that, I will wish you all a very happy holiday season and a happy new year. We won't see each other until 2026. But also, Mr. Councilmember Olson is here to add any additional details. Are always happy to answer questions.
Hi. If you have any questions for me, I'm here to answer those for you. I think Emily did a bang-up job of sharing what we covered in our first meeting in December. And of course, this meeting being a week early, you already got to hear about November in November. We did pass our budget for 2026. We had a 3-1 vote on that budget. As we went through the budget process and we ended up passing our preliminary budget, we had unanimous consent on the budget. But when it came time to actually vote for the budget, first meeting in December, one of our council members was absent, unfortunately. And then we had another council member who didn't feel comfortable with the budget. For those who may not be aware, the budget has to pass with a supermajority. So we made that happen, but may have been easier if all 5 had been present, similar to what you're dealing with this evening. You have 4 of you here instead of 7 of you, and that makes things a little bit more challenging sometimes. I would like to state for the folks watching at home that I appreciated the vigorous debate tonight. I think it's important to note that, you know, as planning commissioners, we expect that from you. Your job is to really inform the city council as to, you know, your thoughts and concerns or approvals or whatever the case might be for some of the projects that we then have to go on to consider. And when you have the vigorous debate like you did tonight, it certainly plants the seed for some additional thoughts and questions that we may come to pass when it lands on our table. So don't stop doing that. I don't ever want anybody on the planning commission, and you're gonna be stuck with me next year too, unfortunately, provided that passes. But I don't ever want anybody on the planning commission or any commission to think that they are being pigeonholed or pushed into a corner and you don't have options. I want you to vote your conscience every time. And yes, there are rules and purview to what each of you do, depending on which commission you're on. But again, when it comes to the city council, we read, believe it or not, the entire packet when we get it, and your commentary carries a lot of weight. What you do matters, so never lose sight of that. Do you have any questions for me this evening? None? Well, then let me be the second person at this desk to wish you all a very happy holiday season. I know that it's a challenging time for people, so don't forget to do your part to make everybody else's life a little easier if you get a chance. It is the season of giving, and I would encourage everybody to give what they can, when they can. Maybe, lift up a neighbor who's having a tough time, or think about somebody, even within your own family, who may be struggling. It's a rough time of year for some people, so count your blessings and share them if you get the opportunity, would be my advice. And with that, Mr. Chair, I'll turn it back to you.
Thank you, Councilmember Olson. Moving on to item B, response to Planning Commission inquiries. I see we have none. Moving on to item C, Planning Commission requests. Do we have any requests from the commission for staff? Seeing none, we'll move on to item number 9. Do we have a motion for adjournment?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Do we have a second?
A second.
Motion adjourned from Commissioner Fisher, a second from Commissioner Bott. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, we are adjourned, and happy holidays.